Hey, welcome back. It's last week of July, so summer's almost over, and you know what that means. Kids back in school, and maybe everything can settle down for all of y'all with kids. Get them back in school, and hopefully everybody can quit spending so much money and time at the beach, reviving the economy. But last week we were in court, and I'm going to update you on that. This week we're starting today with a murder trial. Sheridan Fogle that is accused of killing his girlfriend and burying her in the backyard. Hopefully that case will go forward. There's been yet another motion for continuance, but as we speak, that's being argued right now. Hopefully that'll go forward and we can update you on that next week. And in another courtroom, they're hearing pleas and motions. So it's a busy week, even though it is the last week of July. Last week we had a couple of cases. We had just one judge last week that did trials, but a lot of those ended up pleading guilty. Rashawn Epps, 43, of Myrtle Beach, pled guilty before his trial to possession with intent to distribute crack cocaine. That was a second offense. What we call those are enhanceable offenses. So possession with intent to distribute or distribution first is 0 to 15. You could get time served, you could get probation, you could get up to 15 years. But a second offense, there's mandatory minimums on it. And third offense, there's higher mandatory minimums on it. So this was his second offense, and he received 12 years in prison for that. And will have to serve 85% of that before he would become eligible for parole. Also, Shane Wesley Cook had garnered a ton of interest. We've gotten so many calls on him. He had numerous charges from around the beach. I've seen the media's reported on it quite a bit, with mugshots, and he has been in a lot of trouble. Well, finally, he has got something on his record which will hopefully catch us for the next time. But he pled guilty to aggravated breach of peace and unlawful use of 911, and got probation basically for 3 years with 5 years hanging over his head. Now, as we put out in our press report, there were a lot of other charges, very serious charges like kidnapping, that we could not go forward on. And look, I'm as frustrated with that as you are. But notice the ones that he pled to were crimes against society, which means crimes against the community at large. He breached the peace of the whole community. He used 911 and burned up resources, and those are generally punished to a lesser extent than it would be in a victim case. The problem is on the victim cases, the victims would not come forward. In fact, they were meeting with the defense attorney, going in to testify against the state and for their defendant. So that really makes it hard because remember, these jurors are meeting for this murder case. We are prohibited from telling them about all of those mugshots. We're prohibited from telling them about all of his past history. And to do that would be a mistrial. So those jurors would just sit there on a kidnapping case and not know about all of his past. That is strictly prohibited. And then be asked to make a determination of whether or not on that particular date he kidnapped that particular person. All the while, that particular person is testifying for him. So it makes it difficult. If it wasn't difficult, then I'd have a lot less gray hair. But we really work hard. We're trying to We understand that he has been a problem in the past, and we're trying to make sure that his record reflects that in the future. And that's another thing. All of those mug shots, without convictions, the judge wouldn't even be able to consider them. Just the arrest, he wouldn't be able to consider those. So, yes, we are aware of Shane Cook. What I need you to be aware of is these victim cases without the victim are all but impossible to prosecute. Even what the victim said to the police at the time may come in as to cross-examine the victim with, but they would never come in as hearsay by playing a tape recorder. You can't do that either. So you got to have a live person there. In other cases, our first up case last week in front of Judge Birch was a trafficking in cocaine case. Everybody was prepared, but the defendant, he absconded and didn't show up, so a bench warrant was issued. In that case, the judge can either issue a bench warrant or have a trial in absentia, and that's really up to a judge. When I say a trial in, better way of saying it's trial in absence. But that's up to the judge, and he wouldn't do a trial in absentia. So a bench warrant, arrest warrant from the bench has been issued for Mr. Mays, and when he is picked up, he will face these trafficking charges. Tajon Johnson ended up pleading guilty to trafficking in fentanyl and got 12 years to run concurrent with the unrelated armed robbery. So we should see Mr. Johnson going away for an extensive period of time. Shane Cook, I've already told you about. He was on the trial roster at number 3. Tamara Clark was on there. She pled guilty to failure to return rental property. That is when you go to a bookstore and keep a book past the date, or you go rent a piece of equipment from a tractor supply company and don't return it, or rent a U-Haul. Any of those things when you fail to return it. Ashley McCrae, she pled guilty on trafficking in cocaine, received 9 years. Ashley's one of those names that can go both ways, but he pled guilty to failure to stop and to possession with intent to distribute cocaine, received 9 years. We had a bench warrant issued on Terrell Short, who didn't show up. The state was ready. It was going to be a real short trial on identity fraud. After Mr. Short, there are about 7 other cases that all pled guilty or were set to plead guilty going forward, on different dates that the judge said, yeah, just go ahead. And the last case was resisting arrest, Nicholas Batilla, and that was continued. So most of them were not continued. They were pled guilty or set to plead guilty and have been gone. So a whole series of trial roster cases went last week. And we will be back with this murder update next Monday. Have a great week.